Hello there, my Star Wars family. What's up? It's Robbie here with Star Wars HQ, and today we're exploring space battles in Star Wars Battlefront 2, talking about every new detail so far released, including the fighters and all-out space warfare that we can expect. So guys, let's dive into this. So let's get the official description of space battles nailed down first. Here's what the store listing for space battles goes on to say. It says, Galactic Scale Space Combat. Space combat has been designed for Star Wars Battlefront 2 from the ground up with distinct handling, weapons, and customization options. Join your squadron and weave in between asteroid fields, fly through Imperial dockyards, and take down massive capital ships as you pilot legendary starfighters in high-stakes dogfights with up to 24 players and 40 AI ships. End quote. So yeah, it seems like space battles will be returning with AI ships in the mix, which I do think is a good thing. It adds a lot to the frenetic action, as long as players are able to clearly identify human players versus the AI, of course, and I think give players more incentive to take on other human players. Maybe some sort of cool meta game bounty system, that would be neat. Gain more experience and then go after the top players. That would be very, very cool. Now, from the sounds of it, the space battles are expected to be quite grand in size, with 64 total fighters dogfighting one another, vying for dominance in space. Sounds pretty epic. Now, while space battles were cool in the Death Star DLC and even the Rogue One Scarif add-on, Criterion Games is promising a much deeper experience this time around. And yes, if you don't know, this time EA has assigned an entire team onto space battles, and that's going to be Criterion Games, and they know a thing or two about vehicles. Besides, they've worked on everything from Burnout to Need for Speed, so I have very high hopes they will nail this one down with the space combat feels. And what's going to help with this big time is the introduction of fighter classes. I said previously that I felt there needs to be more depth and detail with the space combat, and it seems like the dev teams are certainly listening. It's unknown what the classes will be exactly right now, but if they are to play out like the 4 ground-based classes we already know of, team play will definitely be encouraged, and players will be customizing their ships with their own abilities and mods, so that's going to be something new that we can expect. And since hero vehicles will be returning like the Slave 1, Millennium Falcon, and there's something called the First Order Starfighter, it's very likely that fighter classes are designed much like the ground-based classes, in that they will be able to work together to take down heroes and larger ships and objectives. And if I have one big request, is to have something where you can stay together as a squad in space battles. I hope they have some sort of cool mechanic like that. That would be very, very cool. So let's go back to the official description really fast, which reads, join your squadron and weave in between asteroid fields, fly through Imperial dockyards, and take down massive capital ships. Now, a lot of you have been contacting us about some of the things said in the official lingo here, including the words made from the ground up and take down massive capital ships. Now, I do not think we will be boarding these ships, to be honest with you guys. I don't think you'll be getting out of the ship and exiting on foot, and I do not think we will see ground to space combat this time around. You know, Criterion Games, they aren't intimately familiar with third-person ground-based games, so I think whatever it is they will offer, it will be a dedicated space experience, and I think a lot of you guys have been craving that, where you can just go in and play hours and hours of space combat and not get interrupted, not be put on the ground. Of course, I do want to eventually see some sort of ground-to-space experience in the 40-player game modes. That would be pretty cool. Only time will tell if that is added later down the road, or if that's something that's coming. We shall find out later, so stay tuned for that. But of course, I see it being very good news having something dedicated wholeheartedly to space combat, especially if VR is to return, and Criterion Games has been very mum about that one. But you got to remember that Criterion Games did work on the VR X-Wing mission that was released alongside the Death Star DLC, and I can say that we loved it over here. We played the heck out of it, and it would be amazing if every single space combat map and mode supported VR. That would be something else. and it would give a good reason to really stay in the space combat experience for sure. And finally, a lot of you were wondering about this shot here in the trailer, asking, is this the shield gate from Rogue One? Well, actually, I do not think this is the case at all. It appears that it could very well tie into the official description of being an Imperial dockyard. As you can see, some of the docking clamps attached to the Star Destroyer here. So far, there's been no indication that we will be getting Rogue One content. But what do we know about Battlefront 2 is that we are going to be experiencing, you know, the First Order. We're going to be experiencing the new era, and then, of course, Clone Wars and original trilogy content. And I do expect that to carry over into the space battles. So they already confirmed that we will be flying around with, yes, Vulture droids. So Clone Wars era space combat is confirmed. I cannot wait to see this, guys, and I'm very curious to see where we will be fighting. We'll be fighting over Coruscant. That was one of the most iconic battles in Revenge of the Sith. That would make one heck of a space combat map. But guys, thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned here to Star Wars HQ by hitting that subscribe button, turning on notifications to receive our videos in your email, because we're covering all things Battlefront 2 and, of course, Episode 8, Star Wars Rebels Season 4. But yes, news is rolling in constantly about all of these things, so stay tuned, guys. Thanks for watching. I will see you later, and may the Force be with you always.